Hello everyone. तो अभी उठने के बाद I was going through my YouTube feed and I came across this video from the Boeing Boy, which is in response to what the Flying Beast has said about the usage of Flap 3 and how it can be unsafe if you use it each and every time. I think it has become a melodrama. Firstly, Flying Beast comes out with a video wherein he's accusing the airline, Tata AirAsia, that how he was mandated to use flap 3 98% of the time in order to save just about a few extra kilograms of fuel. Then we see a few days later another captain, the Boeing Boy, who's also a captain on Tata AirAsia A320, comes out with his own opinion, which seems like a very diplomatic response. Now, people are accusing him of doing paid advertisement on behalf of Tata AirAsia, or basically, he's a pawn from Tata AirAsia. Then again, Boeing Boy comes out with a newer video in which he actually goes into the technicalities of usage of Flap 3 and he's trying to explain it to his audience, or let's say to the YouTube members who are not pilots, who may or may not be pilots. But I would consider largely a majority of them to be just passengers who are concerned about the air safety. We have to understand what is happening over here. Okay, this is just like entire rubbish like TikTok versus YouTube. We got to understand these are two professional men who are actually disgracing the profession by bringing it out on YouTube. Okay, this throwing flags at each other, paid sponsorships by the airline, calling कि मेरी queen को touch किया तो मैं छोड़ूंगा नहीं. This is a disgrace for the profession at the end of the day. I'm not talking about whether you should use flap 3. I'm not here to talk about safety. There is an in charge for every respective department. Firstly, let's talk about the Flying Beast, because you can't say one is wrong, one is correct. You have to understand what are the arguments being put forth by an individual and what is the response that you are getting and what platform are you using. So as pilots, you have to adhere, आपको अपनी standard operating procedures के साथ ही चलना होता है. This is by the book. Whether you do it or whether you don't do it, that is your discretion, your call. Airlines can monitor your performance. They can understand what you're doing, what you're not doing. Now, let me tell you something. एक होती है flight crew operating manual, which is actually manufactured by the manufacturer. So let's say if you buy a car Toyota, आपको Toyota एक handbook देगी कि आपको कार इस हिसाब से चलानी होती है. उसके ऊपर एक होती है operator manual, OM जिसको हम कहते हैं. Now the airline can add their own procedures on top of what the manufacturer has recommended, which means that, okay, the manufacturer tells you कि आपको plane ऐसे चलाना है. Now the airline can tweak that manual, but it cannot make it less restrictive. It has to still be as restrictive as what the manufacturer has asked the airline to do कि इस plane को ऐसे चलाना है. But airline can say कि हमें और भी strict बनना है, and then we can add our own procedures to it, right? So that you can have your own SOPs. And every airline has got different standard operating procedures. Even if you're flying the same aircraft, whether it is Indigo, whether it is Tata AirAsia, whether it is Vistara, everyone has their own set of standard operating procedures. The FCOM, Flight Crew Operating Manual from the Airbus, remains the same. However, the OM will be different based on your operations, based on your manpower, based on your maintenance capability, based on your commercial objectives. Tata AirAsia is a budget carrier, Vistara is a full service carrier, which means that for Tata AirAsia, usage of flap 3 is much more important than it would be for for Vistara Airlines. Again, it is not a hard and fast rule. What Flying Beast has done is that he's trying to expose the airline through social media channels. Okay. And he's saying that he's a one-man army. That is not true. He's trying to use his influence of his viewers. Okay, and when I read the comment section, I understand that most of them are just laymen. Okay, they may or they may not have aviation knowledge, but they are only concerned about safety, which means that now they are swayed. They are being biased as per Flying Beast's commentary. Then in response, we are getting to hear from the Boeing Boy. He doesn't want to comment on it. He says that YouTube, Instagram are not the right channels to basically highlight safety concerns. And I agree. I agree to it. Because there are certain departments whose responsibility is to look after the safety. And safety matters are actually reported anonymously so that you are not penalized for it. A lot of airlines today do promote the safety culture. Now, I cannot comment on the said carrier that Captain Gaurav Taneja is talking about, because he is new in that carrier himself. How much time has he spent in that carrier? We don't know that. We cannot comment on the internal workings of an airline or his profession. Because, see, in all his vlogs, is he a dedicated, aviator? Does he always try to teach you about aviation? No, he's not trying to highlight all parts of his working life. So why should he now highlight all of a sudden what he's trying to do with his company when it is against the company? Right? You should have a neutral stand. That is my opinion. Okay? I respect his opinion, but this is my opinion. Either you be 360 degrees about your professional life, because now you can't show your cockpit videos. Why? Because the DGCA has mandated. But other argument could be that, see, you cannot highlight and expose and exploit your carrier. The airline has a right to suspend you because at the time of signing the agreement, these are the non-disclosure agreements that you signed. You cannot expose the airline and its policies and what you're supposed to do in an airline. So the topic of the matter cannot be why he's suspended from the airline. Okay, you have to accept that as a consequence of your actions. You cannot have the cake and and eat it too. It is not possible. Either you raise your voice and then just keep quiet about it and wait for the response. Every single day you cannot continue to highlight मेरे को response नहीं आ रहा, मेरे को response नहीं आ रहा, पार्लियामेंट में तो इन्होंने ये डिस्कस किया था, वो कुणाल का केस किया था, मेरे लिए तो ये नहीं हो रहा, मेरी रानी को टच कर रहे हैं. That is not the way a professional is supposed to talk about. Okay, about his profession, something which is as serious as flying. If you consider yourself as a serious aviator, right, you do your part, you highlight it and you walk away. If you do not like something, you try to change the system. Okay, you have the right to raise your voice against the system, but you cannot popularize yourself on social media on the basis of that. So because it's not clear to me whether he was suspended first or was he suspended after he raised these issues. To me, it seems like the airline suspended him because he did not conform to their procedures. And then once he was suspended, he got the strength to speak against the airline. See, you have been flying for the airline for quite a few months as per my knowledge. So why didn't you raise all these issues up until now, before COVID, right? The airline did not just come out with its new policies overnight and tell you, okay, you know what, Gaurav, you're supposed to do like that. So everybody's trying to take advantage of the situation. The airlines are trying to reduce their strength. I understand. Now, airlines have to give certain reason. A lot of carriers are terminating people in the Middle East as well. Okay. And I don't know what algorithm or what parameter did they use to terminate people. But from my understanding, those who had a few warnings or who had black marks were first to be shown the door. And it is right. If you are not conforming to the principles of the airline, because it is not you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a business. At the end of the day, you are a mere employee, right? Now, as far as the issue of flap 3 and flap full is concerned, that is absolutely, I think, a rubbish debate to have on. Both the flap settings are recommended by Airbus. Let's get that straight into our heads. That flap 3 is unsafe, flap full is safe, or we should use flap 3 over flap full. Absolutely rubbish. Both the settings are legible to fly this aircraft. It depends on operating conditions, which includes which airport, elevation of the airport, runway length, the type of aircraft. It depends on environmental factors, whether you have turbulence on approach, whether you have wind shear. What does wind shear mean? That when you're coming into land, the winds can change direction very close to the ground suddenly. Now, if you are coming with full flap and in case you have to do a go around, that is, you're aborting your landing. If you are with flap full, you will have difficulty in climbing. Hence, you recommend to have flap 3. You already know that there is a wind shear warning. So you will say, okay, I'll come with flap 3, even if the runway is short, as long as you can make that landing. You will not use full flaps. Now, who decides that? This is on the basis of the experience of all the accidents that we have had in the past. Captain Gaurav Taneja does not decide that by himself. The airlines don't decide that himself. Boeing Boy cannot decide. It's a matter of experience, statistics at the end of the day. Now, if you're telling me I'm landing with a flap 2, okay, now that is a violation. You cannot land with flap 2. Technically, in case of an emergency, you may have to land without any flaps. What do? You'll be coming at a very fast speed. But that is an abnormal situation that we're talking about. We are talking about normal operations. Okay, so the whole argument is Captain Gaurav Taneja's argument is concerned that there was a lapse in the safety and I raised this issue. We need to get another perspective, another angle to it. That what is he trying to state? That the airlines are actually compromising on safety by using flap 3 in every position? Or is he saying कि मेरी छुट्टी काट ली, जब मैं छुट्टी लेता हूँ उसके बदले मेरे को फिर जब मेरी एक्चुअली छुट्टी होती है मुझे काम पे बुला लेते हैं? There is a smoke screen over there. Again, I'm not against him. I'm only laying out all the arguments which are put forth by him and just giving my opinion on that. Now coming to Boeing Boy's response. See, Boeing Boy would not have given any commentary on it if it were not for the initial video. Obviously, he's a YouTube personality in his own right, and there is certain pressure, and the airlines would also be trying to. I'm not saying they must be trying to twist his arm and trying to basically convey the company's message through his channel. And I think anyone would do. See, if there is someone who is against, then there is someone who has to be for the case as well, right? There are always two sides to the party. What Boeing Boy is trying to establish is that what Flying Beast has done is unacceptable. To a certain degree, I agree. It has become very common to raise our grievances on social media because the power is in everybody's hands and everybody can see, everybody can comment upon. As a result, the internal workings or the mischievous workings of any company are basically leaked out very easily. But I cannot call Flying Beast a whistleblower because he has not exposed any secrets. He's only highlighting some facts, to which also we don't have any credential proof. He may be having it, he may have documented and he may have sent it to his respective authorities, but we don't have that proof. You know, we are just basing our opinions on the basis of what we see or what we are told through his media channel. But what Boeing Boy is trying to do is that he's trying to giving you factual information by illustrating example of Jhansi and the other airport in Imphal, because Flying Beast did refer to these airports wherein he did not use full flap landing. It may be a short runway, but yet airlines can go and land over there. See, airline would not be flying to an airport where it cannot make a landing or where the margin is very, very limited or very narrow. There is always some additional runway length available left even after you have consumed most of the length of the runway for a landing. Okay, you cannot just push yourself to the limit. Now that is jeopardizing the safety. And the extra 15% safety margin that he spoke about is again a safety margin. That this much is required, but let me put another 15% on top of that, and I can then see how much landing distance is required versus how much landing distance is available. But this argument again cannot be about the usage of flaps, because he clearly showed in his video that be it flap 3 or flap full, in either ways it is equally safe. If something has to go wrong, it could go wrong because of any other condition. So we take a lot of factors into account, such as the slope, what is the weight of the aircraft, the wind, temperature deviation, so to speak, the environmental factors basically, or the operational factors, and the commercial objectives. So in total, when you see if the landing distance required by an aircraft is much more than the landing distance available, you will never go and shoot that approach. You cannot make that landing. You need to have the 15% margin available. But to me, it seems like this has become about an independent war between Flying Beast and the Boeing Boy, and that should not be the way. This is not the right way to go forward. This is just an argument between an employee and his employer, and the matter should rest over there. The authorities have the right to take their own time to investigate the matter and come back with a response. Yeah, the least that they can do is acknowledge Captain Gaurav Taneja's email or the letters that he has been sending out. That is all. Instead of, bloating this whole issue and then it getting blown away in the media and then people expecting a response from the authorities, I think that would be wrong and putting the system also under pressure. Now, the third aspect which comes is the safety culture, the authorities. What is the DGCA trying to do? What is the Ministry of Civil Aviation trying to do? What are the airlines trying to do to promote the safety culture? Yes, it is a fact that the safety culture is not at its mark in our market. And I wouldn't just comment on India, I think it is just a regional issue. Every country has their own safety lapses. You look at Philippines, you look at Indonesia, the carriers are downgraded, the civil aviation authorities are downgraded. Last time when FAA did visit India, they did downgrade us, but everybody knows that fact. Yes, safety should be proactive and not reactive. With those general opinions, I do agree, but I don't agree that you have to name and shame your airline after being suspended. You cannot do that. You can give recommendations, you can give feedback, we can brainstorm ideas together, we can form new SOPs, but throwing fingers at someone, that would be wrong. Because when you're fighting with Tata Air Asia, who are you fighting with? Are you fighting with an individual, or are you fighting with a group of personnel? Are you fighting with the DGCA, who does not give a damn about what is happening out there? We all know that. There have been cases in India where there were pilots who were flying without even having CPNs. Why? Where did the DGCA go? Nobody has inquired about it. All that we can do in India is suspend the pilots. That is the first knee-jerk reaction in India. That anything that goes wrong, suspend the pilots until the matter is investigated. And till date, I have not seen what happens at the end of the investigation. I mean, there is a lack of transparency. It's a very bureaucratic procedure. Right from the beginning of the journey of an aviator, from the time he has to get a class 2 medical, then class 1 medical, then getting exams cleared, to getting his license issued, to getting a job, it is a back-breaking procedure to be a pilot, especially in India. And not to mention the cost that is involved. So I agree that one has to safeguard his license, but when you're part of the system, you have to accept its pros as well as its cons, and then you have to walk systematically. We cannot just start giving our opinions right, left and center when we already know it, that safety is taken for granted in our country. So now this is a matter of personal war, which is totally not going in the right direction. Like I said, this is a disgrace on your professional capabilities. If you are targeting each member of your family, you're targeting other people, your colleagues, and then the whole audience is watching out there, it is nothing short of a melodrama. It's a farce where basically there is negative marketing, there is negative publicity. It is a game of who's right and who's wrong, and then there will be fingers thrown at each other. And that is not the end objective. If Captain Gaurav Taneja's objective is actually to highlight and promote safety, he should actually, raise a concern, and he should pacify his followers, his viewers, and take the right channel to go about it. There are people who are struggling in civil courts to finish their cases for years and years. You can't just come out on social media and popularize your opinions and expect things to change overnight. Evolution takes many, many years, and safety has to be promoted by everyone. It is not just pilots' responsibility. It includes engineers, it includes maintainers, it includes even normal people who work at the ground staff departments. So this whole issue of flap 3 versus flap full, let us just get straight into our heads, is just a smokescreen which is taking us away from the real issue at hand, which is becoming a personal enmity right now. So kindly please refrain from giving very subjective opinions. Let's keep the matter very objective and stick to the real issue about what are the lapses in the airline. And people say I will not fly Tata Asia. So Indigo is any better off, or any other airline would be better off. Everyone has their own weaknesses, their own strengths, their own opportunities to explore. So how can we say that we cannot fly with one carrier over the other without having any credible proof? So let us be smart, let us be objective, let us use our own judgment in deciding what is best for the aviation, and how the safety is a 360-degree responsibility.